Hinda, thank you so much for joining me to speak with me today about essential employees and communications. But
You
before
are
you
very welcome.
start, I do want to thank you. You are an active participant in the COVID response kit and
Mhm.
Slack community. And when I saw your article come across on LinkedIn about how to talk to essential employees during the COVID-19 crisis, and I'm going to link it into the show notes and, of course, into our Slack channel as well, it triggered in me seeing essential employees and this week kind of intersect, kind of in that second, third week of businesses responding to COVID-19. And I'm hearing that essential, non-essential employees. So before I ask you about your article, tell me a little bit about yourself and your firm.
Sure, sure. So I have a national PR firm headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. We've got 15 folks full time on our team, and we do a lot of work in with restaurants, food companies, agriculture companies, and so this issue really touched a lot of the folks we work with, and really even some of the companies we work with that don't necessarily have essential or non-essential employees, but they're just trying to figure out how to communicate about this.
What would you say the mix is of your clients right now that are essential to non-essential?
It's a good question. I haven't calculated it to be honest, but I would guess maybe about 60% of our folks are still working.
Okay. So, Hinda, so you noticed when you wrote this article that is communicating to an essential business or employees different than communicating to non-essential in this time?
So I think it is. And the reason why at face value is these people are people who have the same other disruptions in their life happening, right? They're concerned about the economic volatility. They're concerned about the health and safety of their family. They may suddenly have a childcare issue that they didn't have, 2 weeks ago. And so when you're talking to an essential employee, you're saying, we need you to come to work. Our industry, our sector has been named as a essential workforce, and we need you to come to work even though you got all this other stuff happening.
Hmm. So, how are you counseling your clients then through this? Is there anything particular that they should be doing differently in just a normal business operating environment?
So I think that the probably one of the biggest differences with essential employees, especially if they're essential employees who actually are going to a workplace right now, right? So you think about things like healthcare workers, first responders, farm workers, food producers, people who work in transportation. Some of those folks are still going, and they're actually going to work. And so they're, even in the midst of a stay-at-home order, or a shelter in place order in many cases, they're actually going to a workplace. And so the very first thing I think that's most important in this situation is to remind them that even as they are providing this important service as an essential worker, that they're also we're thinking about their health and safety, right? We are doing what we can to assure that even as they're out during this crisis time, this public health crisis, that we are doing what we can to put the extra precautions in place to keep that workplace safe for them. It's finding that balance of saying, yes, we really need you here, but we also are going to do our darndest to keep you safe.
Yeah, so the human factor, it sounds like you're saying, is probably the key message
Mhm.
that employers should be delivering to their internal stakeholders right now, is that their health and safety is paramount.
Yep, I think that's exactly right. I also think that it's really important to be very clear about sort of expectations, policies, things like, well, what if somebody in my family is ill and I'm an essential worker? What do I need to know? What do I need to do? What if I'm driving to my workplace and a law enforcement official pulls me over and asks me why I'm out when we're under a stay-at-home order? I mean, there are all these sort of weird things that happen when you're in a crisis like this that are really very unique. And so my experience over the last few weeks has been that, all the great crisis plans in the world didn't really quite anticipate this. So being clear in those expectations, talk about any changes or enhancements you might have made to your benefits in the context of what's going on nationally, and just really committing to them that that you as an employer are going to do what's right for them. I mean, this is not a time for rigidity. This is a time for flexibility and understanding, even as you're still focused on getting the work done.
Right. Proactive flexibility is key right now. It's interesting that you mentioned being pulled over. I am a client that I was on the phone with yesterday in the utility space.
Hmm.
That a lineman was pulled over by a trooper because they were, defying to stay in place. And even though you would think a utility is essential, and as you mentioned too, that this is such a unknown event, like it's really difficult to plan for this one in particular. But are you encouraging, because there's so many unknown problems that are just presenting itself like on a daily basis, like being pulled over, how can a leader kind of foresee or predict and work around those type of issues that you don't know about until they happen? Is there anything they can be doing?
There is. I mean, for example, even though where I am in Ohio, workers aren't required to carry a letter with them, but certainly it's unsettling if you get pulled over. If a public health person would ask you, why are you out? Why are you working? And so we provided a lot of our clients with a template letter for their employees that sort of outlines why the job that they're doing is essential, and that it's designated as such by the state of Ohio and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And we do that, again, not because it's required for them to have it, but because it's helpful for them to have it. It gives them a sense of security. Um, Another thing that we've really encouraged clients to do is to think a little differently about their internal communication strategy. And, I mean, everybody's been on the receiving end of these long letter diatribes of we're doing this and we're doing that to respond. And I think that there's a lot of fatigue going on. And for essential workers, especially, short, measured bursts of information are going to be the most helpful to them at this time. And I think it's also about striking the balance between sort of what are you pushing out, and then also, what are you pulling in? We've had some clients who also have established new ways for their employees to talk to them, to raise concerns confidentially, whether it's setting up a confidential email box, because people have unique questions right now too, about sort of what their childcare situation, or what they, perhaps they have a loved one at home with an immunocompromised system, and they're thinking, oh, I don't know if I want to be going to work every day because I'm concerned I'm going to take something home for that person. So there are a lot of sort of unique situations that really require a deft touch in terms of the privacy, or just the level of concern. I mean, you just got to lean in a lot more on your values and your caring for people than perhaps you do on a normal day-to-day basis.
Okay, so you have a number of clients and you've been in the business for a number of years. How many years have you run your firm?
This firm 6 years, but I've been in agencies for almost 30.
Okay, so you understand how to assist the client to communicate, obviously, with their employees. And it's interesting. You're highlighting areas that I don't think most people, at least on the chatter and online, I'm not seeing. It's
Yep.
interesting that you have a template that you are giving to your clients about what you should write and craft for when they're driving, correct? So if they're pulled
Yeah.
over, and
Yeah.
how they should message in these short bursts. Now, are you referring to emails, like, or just kind of
I,
intranet?
I think there are lots of different platforms. I mean, with a number of the clients that we work with, they have a lot of hourly workers who may not
Okay.
necessarily have access to email. So we're using things like Slack. We're using things like text messaging, setting up hidden website pages with links to like FAQs that people can go to. Just, so making information out there and available, and then but texting is a great way to get a quick message to people if you need to as well. So again, it's that balance of here's information available to you when you want to read it. And then, and if you have specific questions, please reach out, and here are the ways you can do that. I mean, it's about that, really, it's about that push pull of making sure that there's a two-way communication happening, because this is also evolving and changing daily, weekly, and there's no sort of foreseeable end right now. And so these folks are going to need a lot of hand holding and reassurance over the coming days and weeks.
Hannah, do you find in your work right now, since you are so client based, if
Mhm.
you had to tell a leader of an organization or a business that you are consulting with right now, are you instructing them or guiding them or advising them on a percentage of how often, like, are you telling them your internal stakeholders are the most important and they should receive 80% of your energy in terms of communications? Are you getting down to that level?
I haven't put a percentage level on it, and honestly it probably varies sector to sector. But without a doubt, I would say half your communications right now, if you have an essential business, an essential sector of the industry, I think probably at least half your communications ought to be inward focused. And by the same token, you do also want to have a really strong commitment to your essential workforce, because externally media and regulators and policymakers are also starting to ask businesses. They're saying, yes, you're essential, and yes, we want you to stay open, but we also want to know for a fact that you're taking care of your workers. And that question is starting to come up more and more. So for employers, it really is it's a double win, because when you're taking care of your people, then you have the ability to say outwardly, we're taking care of our people.
Hinda, what does that look like when a
Mhm.
business in this time of crisis, how can they walk that fine line and articulate that we're taking care of our people without sounding as if they are bragging about taking care of their people?
There's a lot of benefit right now, I think, to wait until you're asked. I always advocate for sort of a proportional response. If media start asking questions about your workforce, answer them. If you're getting an inquiry on, one of your social media platforms, or somebody says, well, what are you doing for your workers? Answer it. But I don't know that right now you have to be pushing it out there, other than just to say what everybody needs to hear, which is, we're doing our darndest to take care of them, and we've put every precaution in place we can. And I think it's good to also remind employees, as well as sort of the world at large, that the reason that you're essential, why are you essential? In the case of a food company, it's because we're making sure that our shelves stay stocked. I can't talk. Shelves stay stocked. And
A lot of S's.
that was a lot of, I was like a bad tongue twister. And so, reminding them of the purpose, right? For healthcare workers, obviously, everybody understands what their role is and why they're essential. But, I think it's helpful. People need a purpose right now. And so reminding essential workers that they are part of that purpose. They are part, if you're a truck driver, you're a part of keeping supply chain going. And that's deeply important right now as we navigate all of this. And so giving them that sort of sense of reason for being is a good one.
Okay, Hinda, I assume that this issue is not going to crop up with any of your clients, but I notice it from an employee point of view. These non-essential businesses that are staying open and they are requiring employees to show up to work when they don't have to, or they could be considered essential, but they're putting their employees in dangerous situations, potential transmission. What would you share in terms of a value system, or how would you counsel a leader where you think they weren't quite doing the right thing
Hmm.
as it relates
Hmm.
to this?
So we would probably try to help them see a few steps down the road and what that's going to look like. And I mean, I think there are some short-term risks that are pretty obvious, right? I mean, our public health department, our governor has put in place like dial-in lines where people can call in and report a business that's not doing things properly or is working when they shouldn't be. And the reputational risk, of course, crisis too. I mean, the reputational risk is very, very high right now, because again, emotions are high across the country. And if people are sort of being victimized in a way by their employer, I think that you're going to see some really significant reputational backlash. And so helping them see that outcome down the road, having a violation issued on you by the state of government is also not a good strategy. But long term, I think another piece of this is eventually things will get back to normal, and people are going to need to hire people, and you want to have a good reputation as an employer for taking care of your employees and doing the right thing. And doing the right thing when times are tough is a great measure of who you are as an individual company and how you take care of people. And that's a best recruitment tool I know.
Oh, well said. Yes, and you're looking down the road. I mean, that predictive analysis.
Mhm.
Tell me, with the clients that you work with right now, or even in your work, noticing what is happening in this COVID-19 environment, Tell me about the value system that you think the leaders, business owners, small business owners, farmers, restaurant owners, who you work with and who you just see by 2 to 3 degrees removed. What kind of value system are they leaning into? Do you think? Who are the ones that are most successful
It's a great
or
question.
surviving? I should say,
In
not
terms of,
successful.
yeah, I mean, in terms of a lot of food companies that I work with are really taking this seriously, and I've been, I don't want to say pleasantly surprised because they're all good companies, but I've been it's been a welcome thing to see how much they're really embracing this need for internal communications and this need to take care of people. And it's not only how we communicate, but what we say. And then they're also really, I think, trying to do what's right in terms of, they're also saying, hey, we know this is a tough time, and so we're going to give you an extra, a grocery gift card, or we're going to bring in lunch. And I like that added touch of community because it can feel pretty lonely, I imagine, to be an essential worker when everybody else is staying home. And I think that from that perspective, I've been really, really glad to see how they are, how they're sort of really maybe just taking a little more on in terms of the internal communications message. And just, I think there's just a higher level of awareness of the need to be more accommodating and to recognize that this is just a time when everybody is sort of in the stratosphere emotionally, right? You're up, you're down, whether you're essential or not, everybody is being
Mhm.
impacted by this in the workforce. And I think the ones who are going to be successful at the end of the day are the ones who took a moment to remember to take care of their employees.
Yeah, that human element of being more altruistic, putting people above a profit, are the
Yep.
ones that will survive this. Hinda, so your article, "How to Talk to Essential Employees During the COVID-19 Crisis." Of course, we're going to have this within the COVID communication response kit, and also we're going to share it as well. But if you could sum up to all your clients at once and to everyone else, what would you say in this time? How they should be a leader? What should be the best leader in this time?
Um, I think the best leader at this time, number one, cares first, um, communicates as transparently and authentically as they can second. And then I think a big thing that leaders are going to have to really focus on is helping people see the end of the road. How does this end? And that's not date certain right now. And so I think that's a lot of what is making people uneasy. And I think a strong leader says, listen, we don't know exactly when this is going to come to an end, but it will. And we're grateful for all you're doing to help us get there.
Oh, well said. Well said. Now, I just have to ask you because you're so wise to it. Are you sitting there trying to predict the next thing your clients need to worry about or think about?
Yeah, kind of.
Do you know what it is yet? I mean, any thoughts
Yeah,
to it?
I do. I know what it is. I mean, I think I know what it is. I think it's going to be about the internal and external communications when we have a positive case in a manufacturing, food production, or healthcare facility.
Okay, so that next step is like that crisis response. So
Yes.
you're encouraging them to do that dual communication between external, internal, and how to do that crisis response from there. So,
Yep.
and that's why they hire people like you and PR firms to think like that for them.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, Hinda, thank you so much for taking this time.
Thank
I mean, it
you.
was brief, but there was so much information in there. And I
Good.
like how you're thinking down the road because as communicators and leaders, or at least leaders need communicators to help them foresee any problems that are down the road because it's always changing. But sometimes experienced people can know what's right around the corner.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Hinda.
Oh, thanks for having me.